5, 4, 3, 2, 1, go!
What do you think, Marge? All I need is a title.
Welcome to part 3 of the short video series on the impeachment of President Donald Trump. In this video, we'll take a look at the articles of impeachment to see what the learned scholars and politicians think that the bad orange man did that was very, very bad. There are some major problems with both of the charges handed down by the U.S. House. To set all of this up, we should remember that the Constitution states that a person holding office can be impeached for treason, bribery, and other high crimes and misdemeanors. The problem with this is that this is very vague. What exactly is a high crime or misdemeanor? I realize that the founders didn't want to have to include an exhaustive list of crimes and such, but the vagueness of this definition makes impeachment a very weak tool for removing someone from office. Now, while the founders did specify some definitions of what might make up an impeachable offense, what they came up with, an office holder misusing his office, is still immensely vague. Another small problem is that while the Federalist Papers are informative as to what the founders were thinking in the period around the time that the Constitution was written, none of the Federalist Papers are actually in the law. All we have to go on is the Constitution and past precedents. So, speaking of past precedents, let's look at impeachment and see what past presidents have been charged with. Andrew Johnson was impeached with 11 charges, most of them having to do with the removal of Edwin M. Stanton from the office of Secretary of War, in violation of the Tenure of Office Act. Richard Nixon would have been charged with obstruction of justice regarding the investigation of the Watergate break-in, and Bill Clinton was charged with lying under oath and obstruction of justice in the matter of the sexual relationship with Monica Lewinsky, or that woman, as she was lovingly referred to by Bill.
But I want to say one thing to the American people. I want you to listen to me. I'm going to say this again. I did not have sexual relations with that woman, Miss Lewinsky. I never told anybody to lie, not a single time, never. These allegations are false, and I need to go back to work for the American people.
As for the charges against President Donald Trump, let's let the Dems detail those for us.
Madam Speaker, I yield myself such time as I may consume.
Gentleman's recognized.
Madam Speaker, the House of Representatives must now consider 2 articles of impeachment against President Trump. The first article charges that the President used his public office to coerce a foreign government into attacking his political rival. The second article charges that the President took extreme and unprecedented steps to obstruct our investigation into his conduct. Taken together, the 2 articles charge that President Trump placed his private political interests above our national security, above our elections, and above our system of checks and balances.
So the first charge is misuse of office, and the second charge is obstructing Congress. There are a fuckload of problems with both of these charges. Let's start with misuse of office, and the fact that such offenses are in the eye of the beholder. Given the assertions made during the hearings, this version of misuse of office is so broad that pretty much every president that has ever sat in the office would be guilty of it. I'm pretty sure that George Washington did something that at least someone did not like, but they kept their mouths shut. But with the partisan fighting that started up after Washington was no longer in office, impeachment would have played a major role there. How about John Adams and the Alien and Sedition Acts in 1798? How about Andrew Jackson, who was hated while he was in office? How about Jackson's policy of Indian removal? And of course, there are more. How many of the minor presidents before and after Abraham Lincoln could have been impeached for some minor thing that someone got pissed off about? Misuse of office? Ulysses S. Grant? Corrupt. Gone. James Buchanan for making sure the Civil War happened? Theodore Roosevelt for being an asshole? William H. Taft for being fat? Woodrow Wilson for being a racist? You get the idea. The second charge made by Jerry Nadler is obstruction of Congress, because the Trump administration ignored subpoenas issued from the House subcommittee and took those to court when they needed to. But guess what? That is exactly what the executive and legislative branches are supposed to do when they have a problem with the directive from the other branch. Put simply, doing something that is legal and what you are supposed to do when an impasse occurs is not an impeachable offense. Congress does not get to have everyone in the White House at their beck and call. The executive branch is entitled to their secrecy, their rights, their privileges, their procedures, and people should not be continuously harassed by a bunch of fuckwits who don't like them. The utter flimsy and stupid nature of these charges reveals the strategy behind them. The entire affair was a throwaway to the far left of the Democrat Party in Congress. They can say they got Trump. Without a Senate trial, he will never be vindicated, at least not within government. Nazis can parade impeachment around for the next 5 years. In the meantime, Nancy Pelosi and the more sensible politicians will work to save the people that they can from this madness. They will keep their distance from the impeachment implosion and allow it to swallow up a group of people who have been nothing but a distraction for the last 3 years.